Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to do your handover video on your AutoTrail Cheyenne. It's 2006. So under the bonnet, got your engine battery over here on the left hand side. So this is your jump start battery. Various fuses just here, all to do with the split charging functionality of the motorhome itself, but I'll go through that when we get inside. Brake fluid attached to the servo just down the back in this reservoir up here. Power steering fluid in this one at the front. Engine oil goes in through the top just here, and your engine oil dipstick is this yellow topped one at the front. Your engine coolant is in this reservoir at the top here, and you should always check that when the engine is cold. So you can see in there, it's a nice colour, there's nothing nasty about it in there. Same with the engine oil, if I can get it off. See there, nice clean colour. Nothing sort of white or gooey about it, so there's no water inside the engine. Air filter sits inside this box just here. Just literally take off these couple of screws to get that out. The ones at the back are a little bit awkward, but that's how you get that out. And you've got a few fuses and relays inside this box here, but that's all original Fiat stuff, so you don't need to worry about that. And the last thing is your washer fluid, just there. You've got your uprated Alco chassis plate just here. So this is the one that you want to go off. So the vehicle actually weighs 4.5 tons. But yeah, so that's the one you go off if you ever need to look at that. Fuel filler cap is on the near side, just here at the front, and you need your ignition key to go into that. And inside the passenger door, there isn't a huge amount to go through. The front for the radio is just there. But yeah, the majority of the stuff's over on the other side, actually, to be honest. So I'll show you that when we get there. External gas point, just here on the near side as well. Leisure batteries sit inside this little cupboard here. You do need to take this little cover off to get to these. But once you do that, you do get nice easy access of all that. Your awning winder is also in here. In order to get that out, I can't really show you the awning out because, you know, I need 2 hands really to actually do that. In fact, easier with 2 people, but that's there. The door has a little lock in there so that when you got the door open, it won't flap around in the wind. The step comes in and out from this little button just here. You can see that working really nicely. You've got this here, which is your D bar. So when you pull this down, you will then be able to move this around. You can either have it dead straight, so you can use it as a handle to get in, or across the door to use it as a lock. And these are really, really strong. These aren't going anywhere at all. See, we've got these bolts on the inside. These 2 vents just here are for your fridge. So if you have the fridge lit up on gas, you'll be able to see the flame inside this cupboard just here, or this little locker here. And they pop out just with these little latches at the top inside. The fresh water inlet point is this one just here. And the locker at the back just here is just an absolutely huge amount of storage. Nothing to show you in this locker, I don't think, other than just the fact that, like I said, it's just got loads of storage in there. And the last locker on the near side is your toilet cassette locker. So really, really simple how to use these. You've got a fresh water flush on this particular system, meaning that there's no separate flush fluid to worry about and fill up all the time. So this literally comes directly from your fresh tank. So really, it's ideal if you have some water in the tank all the time that you're using the vehicle, so that you can flush the toilet at any time. To take the cassette out, lift up on the little yellow tab here and pull the whole thing towards you. Once you've got it to here, I can now show you pretty much anything you need to know about it. But to be honest with you, all you do need to know is you've got this little flap just in here. So this rubber seal would have been lubricated as part of the habitation check, and it's really important. I'd like to think that it's really important. As a motorhomer, you should really carry around a bottle of silicone spray or silicone lubricant. Silicone lubricant is what you have to use on these rubber O-rings, and if you don't do that every once in a while, this will get stuck and you won't be able to do this. So essentially what happens is it will get stuck in that position there, and then when you slide this into here again to put it back away, this won't move and it'll break. It'll break this whole section here. So it's really important. Lubricate that rubber seal. But also, the other reason why it's so important to have a can of silicone spray is all of these rubber seals around every single one of these cupboards. If you don't lubricate them every, maybe once a year or so, they'll get dry, and as soon as they get dry, all the water will just be allowed to go into the cupboard. So silicone lubricant is a bit of a godsend really for anything rubber, anything kind of, even plastic actually, keeping plastic moist and stopping it from cracking and things like that. But there you go, that's what that's mainly used for. Get yourself some silicone lubricant, go around these, go around your rubber seal here every once in a while. Other than that, twist this bit around and empty it out from here. And when you are emptying it out, you should hold down the little yellow button at the back. And then once you have drained it out, you can fill this back up with a cap full of the blue fluid, give it a little swish around, and then all the way back in like that, making sure that the little yellow tab has gone past that little lip. But that's how you use the toilet cassette, nice and simple. Bike rack at the back of the vehicle, and you've got the tow bar at the back obviously as well. So the tow bar is a really nice tough tow bar. You've got all the details of that just here if you should need them. So I'll just go around to the offside now and show you a few bits over there, because there are quite a few lockers and bits and bobs. So inside the driver's door, we've got you've got electric adjusting mirrors, so you can adjust the mirrors, literally just choose which mirror you want to move and then adjust it as and where you want it. All of your heater controls in the middle there are nice and simple, just like any car, to be honest. So you can probably work that stuff out, but fan speed, fan temperature, and where you want the fan to blow the air to. 5-speed manual gearbox. Obviously this one's based on the 2.8 turbo diesel, so it's a really nice chunky engine. Plenty of power for getting about. Reversing camera just there as well. If you need to get to any sort of like fuses and things inside the vehicle, and the OBD reader actually as well is just behind this little cover here, so it's just these 2 screws. They don't actually come out, but when you undo them, you'll get to a point where you feel that the screws left its, where it's supposed to go into, and you can pull this down. OBD reader is just around there, and actually just thinking about it, some of these older ones are... oh yeah, there you go. So the OBD reader in this one is just inside this little cap here. So on some of the newer cabs, so like 2014, they're actually behind here, but there you go, even easier. That's where the OBD reader is, in there. So yeah, that's about it really for the cab. Just behind this little curtain just here, you've got this little, what looks like a bonnet release. And in fact, actually just saying that, the bonnet release for the cab is just there, and your steering column adjustments is there. You've got another one just here, which goes into that cupboard there. So that's actually the release for your gas locker. So you can see what's happening there. When I'm pulling that, it's pulling these little bits in. That's actually working really nicely. Some of these can get a little bit stiff sometimes, but that's working really, really well. So when you pull that lever inside there, it opens this up, and it just basically pops open a little bit, and that allows you to open the gas locker completely up. Once you're in the gas locker, all there is really, you can see you've got space in here for 2 of these big bottles. I think you probably fit a 13 kilo in here as well, I'm not sure, but it looks like you can. You've got 2022, so it's a brand new pigtail, so you've got till 27 to replace that. To turn the bottle on, anti-clockwise around to the left, and turning it off, it's clockwise around to the right. And then all you really need to know other than that is, when you come to running out of gas in this bottle, undo this nut just here, put it onto your new bottle, tighten it on, and that really is it. That's, it's as simple as that. You haven't got to worry about any of the regulator stuff over here. That's all just for our testing purposes. But yeah, that's the gas locker. When you come to closing this up, you do literally just pull it out of its little cap that it's in at the moment. Well, it's a brand new one, so it's nice and stiff. Using both hands, go to the side, pull it out of the little cap there, and then just literally just let it drop in Before you start driving, obviously you should really turn your gas off at all times. To be honest, you should always turn that off. Right, hookup point, this one just here. So if you do have access to a hookup cable, it's really important that you have that plugged in. I know that there's a solar panel up on the roof of this, but you're still going to get more power running into your leisure battery and keeping it all nice and charged up if you have a hookup plugged in, no matter what. On the sunniest day in the world, the solar panel will only put in, you'll only get up to about 13 volts, which is great, but with a hookup cable you get to about 14 and a half. So that's what that's mainly used for. Plus you do then have access to anything that works on the mains inside the vehicle and all of your main sockets, so your 3-pin sockets. In this cupboard here you've got your water filter, which is just in line there going up to your taps. Not much else to show you apart from just loads of storage. Down underneath the vehicle here you've got your wastewater drain off point. A bit further along, this vent just here is for your boiler. So if you wanted to double check that the boiler was definitely lit up on gas, then you can put your hand underneath here and just make sure that you've got lots of hot air coming out through that, which I know that it's been working really well. So but there you go, so that's how you can check that. Also, another thing to point out is that you will get this condensation building up all the time that it's on. That's just purely because of the heat coming out of it, and the colder the day is, the more condensation you'll get just here, so just bear in mind that's completely normal. External shower point or external water point, so this is a hot and cold external point. Inside this cupboard just here, so you can see there the boiler itself is over in that corner. The boilers are reasonably simple to work on, or that style is anyway, and if ever was, if there was any problems in the future, then like I said, they're quite simple. But it's all, when you lift up this bed here, it makes it much easier to get to. So you can see you got your water pump there as well, but yeah, with this bed up here, everything's nice and accessible. The only thing I want to show you in this cupboard really is this really important little yellow lever. So what that is the drain for your boiler. So any time that you want to drain the boiler out of its water, which would be if you know that you're not going to be using the vehicle and it's going to get really cold outside, lift this little tab up and basically all the water from inside that boiler will drain out onto the floor through a little drain. I don't know if you're going to see it or not. No, I can't see it. But basically, just underneath here is a little drain. So when you lift that up, if it's facing upright, any water that goes into the boiler will come straight out onto the floor. The reason you would do that, just so you know as well, is if, the reason you need to do that, sorry, if the boiler was full of water, so it's a 10-litre tank, if it was full of 10 litres of water and it froze because the inside of the vehicle was so cold that it froze up inside, then any water that's in there will expand when it freezes, crack any and every pipe. All these fittings here would probably crack and start leaking. All of that sort of thing will happen. So if you don't drain this out, it's quite likely that you'll get leaks very near, as soon as that water thaws out, you'll have leaks, I can guarantee it. So if you're not going to use the vehicle through the winter, lift this up and just leave it open, okay? So that's that. Under here as well, you've got your freshwater drain off point. So it's nice and easy to get to, just have to get down just there. And that's it actually for the offside. So I'll leave the gas on just so I can show you a few bits working inside. But I'll get inside now and show you a few bits in there. So first thing I'll go through is just up here. So when you turn this main on and off switch on here, you straight away you get a little screen coming on there, and you can then flick through. So this is the screen you'll see when you first turn it on. We'll flick through. Don't worry about these unless you want to set all that stuff up. So pump select internal, that's exactly what you want. So that means that internal pump that I just showed you by the boiler is the one that has power running to it. So that's the one you want. Next, wastewater level. So the wastewater is empty and the fresh water is 25% full. Vehicle battery 12.2, leisure 12.1, and that's because I've got some lights on in here. I've got the power on for the boiler. I've got all that sort of stuff. So any other time your leisure battery will probably be sat at 12.5, that sort of level. So that's that, and that's it. So that's your control panel going through there, pressing on the up button. I've then also got the pump switch on, and the reason I've done that is because I know that there's some water in the fresh tank, and now that I know that, I put the pump switch on and just do this. Basically, it's as simple as this. Pour the water through here on the hot side, so the water's already nice and hot, and over on the cold side as well. Just make sure you get rid of any of that air there. The only reason this is doing this now is because it's really hot. But get rid of any of that air and then turn the tap off. The pump, you probably can't hear it on the video, but it's just turning itself off now. There you go, it's off. So that means if you've got the pump switch on there, you've done that on the hot and cold tap, the pump turns itself off. That means that your boiler's full of water and you're up to pressure. If the pump didn't turn itself off when you do that, it means basically you've got a leak somewhere, and that you should have a little look around. So all the time that your pump is switched off, all the time the pump switch is on and the pump isn't running, it means you're up to pressure, pressure's good, no leaks, all that sort of thing. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and use the boiler exactly as you want to. You've got this button just here, which I will tell you what it does, but I don't want you to use it because it's not, so right, basically what that button does, anytime that button there, the top right button, isn't illuminated, anything that uses power, so your lights, ignition, anything at all, is running from the leisure battery down there under the seat. So that's exactly what you want. All the time that you want anything lit up or working, it needs to be from the leisure battery. If you press this button just here, it switches the power from drawing down from the leisure to drawing from the engine. All right, if you do that, the engine battery obviously pretty quickly is going to end up going flat because they're not made to have constant things being drawn from them. So just something really important to point out, please don't press that button unless if your engine battery is completely dead and you want to charge it up and you don't have a normal engine battery charger, which would be better. If you don't have access to one of those, you can put the hookup cable in, and then when you press that button, the charge from the charger from the hookup cable switches from the leisure to the engine. Okay, so if you wanted to charge the engine battery up and you have the hookup cable in, you can press that top right button just there, like I said, and send the charging power to the engine battery instead. So that's the only reason you would ever want to use that. Okay, so leave this button off basically, unless you want to charge up your engine battery. Aux is another one. You can just turn aux on when you turn these two on. Aux can be for anything really. If anything's been fitted aftermarket, quite often you'll find that it's been run to the aux switch just there. But yeah, so other than that, that's about it for the control panel. What else was I going to say just then? Up here, so in all the AutoTrail, well, not all the AutoTrails, but most AutoTrails that have this kind of top cupboard format, you have your Sargent EC200 video. On the actual channel, there is a video of me going through how the EC200 works, but I will just quickly run you through this one. Well, first off, this whole cupboard here, generally speaking, is just, a big electrical cupboard, so that most of the electrical stuff is kind of in one place. That's the other beauty about the EC200, because they've got the charger inside this unit here. Anytime that you're hooked up and you have this switch on, where it is now, the charger is working, and it's sending power to the leisure battery, or leisure batteries. So instead of having a separate charger somewhere else, it's all inside this box here and all nice and neat. So that's a really nice thing about these. Your 12-volt fuses down here, you've got 8 of them, and they've all got their own little thing telling you exactly what they do. So front lights, rear lights, sockets, etc. You can go through, you can make sure they're the right color and the right ampage, which they all are. So yeah, that's how they, that's how you can have a little look in those and just make sure they're all okay. If you do have a problem with the lights, for example, if you can't get any lights to come on and you've got good voltage in the battery, have a little look in here and check the 2 first fuses. If you're hooked up on the mains and nothing's working, have a little look in here and make sure that these are all in the upright position and showing red. That's your RCD and MCBs. Various aerial bits and pieces up here. We don't really go through that sort of thing because they're all aftermarket fittings, generally speaking. So it's not really something we tend to go through, but it's all in there if you'd like to use it. Right. Oh. So that's electrical stuff out of the way. Next door to the control panel, you'll see here you've got these 2 dials and 2 switches. The 2 switches are completely irrelevant to these 2 here. These are just the lights over the top of the cupboards, okay? So you can completely ignore these in comparison or in relation to these. So the first one I'm going to go through is the one here that says Trumatic C. So Trumatic C is essentially just the name of the boiler. So it's a Trumatic combi boiler. Combi isn't in the same sort of respect as you'd have a combi boiler in a house, in the fact that when you pull the hot tap in the vehicle, you won't get like instant hot water with a flame like that. So if you have water in the boiler, like I've showed you already how to do, you can go up 1 for 40 degrees of hot water or up 2 for 60. Okay. You can then set this little dial here wherever you want, but basically just leave it where it is. So 40 or 60, that's the temperature of the water, and going up there is hot water only. Okay, if I go back down to the middle, the light goes out and the boiler is now off. If I go down 1, that is heating only, and any of these little circular vents around the vehicle, after a few minutes, will have hot air pumping around to them. So heating only is 1 down, and like I said, that's your blown air heating. This dial in the middle here really is more so for just the heating where we are now, and it's more like a sort of a fan speed setting. The higher you have it, the more air that will come pumping through. And the last one, which is all the way down to the bottom, is heating and hot water at 60 degrees. So you can see there the gas flame symbol is heating only, and the little squiggly line there is hot water. So when you have the very bottom one there has both, it means that there's hot water and heating at the same time. Okay, so for the time being, I'm going to turn that off. So that's how you use the boiler. That's how you get the boiler to work. So anytime that you have this left one on here, you can choose how you want it to work, what you want it to do. The dial on the right, Trumatic CEH, is essentially choosing what energy you want the boiler to use, whether it be gas or electric. Okay, so the one on the right here does not tell the boiler to, so at the moment, because this is in the off position, I can do absolutely anything at all with this and it will not do anything. Okay, nothing is happening. Because this one is off, this isn't doing anything. If I turn this on to heating only, for example, and I leave this where it is on the little gas flame symbol, that means that I'm going to have heating only, and it's going to be doing it via the gas only. If I had a hookup plugged into the vehicle, I could go up 1 or up 2, and that would give us heating only via electric. If I had the electric hookup plugged in and the gas switched on, I could go all the way down to the bottom or here and have gas and electric at the same time. Okay, so this one here purely tells the boiler whether to use gas or electric or both. Okay, no matter what you've set the boiler to do over on this side, this just tells it how to do it. So for the most part, you're going to leave it in the middle just here on the gas symbol, because generally speaking, you're not always going to have a hookup plugged into the vehicle at all times. If you do have a hookup plugged into the vehicle still, I personally would advise you just to leave it on the gas for the most part anyway, because if you don't use it on gas very often, you'll find that it starts to smell a little bit in that cupboard down there, because the gas flame won't be getting rid of any dust that it gets built up. But yeah, I mean, you know, it just gives you the option there. You can either use it on electric at the top, gas in the middle, or gas and electric at the bottom. Okay, so like I said, at the moment I'm on heating only, on gas only. Or if I went up to the top here, I'm now on 60 degrees of hot water only, on the gas. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I'm going to turn that off now. You don't, so essentially you don't need to marry these up. You don't need to do the set. You don't, nothing like that. Just literally choose whatever energy you want it to use, which, like I said, for the most part is just going to be gas only, and then choose whether you want hot water, heating only, or heating and hot water. Okay, so I hope that made sense. Sometimes it can be a little bit awkward to sort of like go through and describe, but I hope that makes sense. Okay, the fridge, it's a tower style fridge, meaning that you've got the nice big tall fridge. Normally they're just about this high, top to bottom. So freezer compartment at the top. Turn the fridge on by pressing and holding this little switch here, and it will choose which energy it thinks it wants to use straight away. So it's chosen 12 volt, and this is the reason why I don't really like the automatic function on these fridges. So sometimes if you've got good voltage in your leisure battery, it will think that you can use that, but it can't. Okay, so you get a little fault code come up over here. So all you need to do, press and hold this button just here, and just basically go through to whichever energy you actually want to use. So at the moment I want to use gas, because I've got the gas switched on, I don't have a mains cable plugged in, and the engine isn't running. The only time you can use the 12 volt function that you saw a minute ago is when your engine's running and you're driving. So at the moment you can see there we're lit up on gas and we're on full power. Okay, if I had a hookup plug into the vehicle, I would flick through here and choose the hookup function. Again, fault code because there's no hookup plugged in. So at the moment, the only way I can use this fridge is on the gas. So it lights up on its own. You don't have to press any other buttons to actually light it up. Leave it as it is. It will do its thing. I can hear straight away it's already lit. But yeah, you've got a nice light inside the fridge, so you can see there. The coldest part of the fridge will obviously be the fins at the back there, so try not to get anything too close to that, otherwise it could freeze up. And obviously you've got your freezer compartment at the top. So these fridges will take a good 2 or 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours to actually cool down. It's not because there's anything wrong with the fridge, that's just how all motorhome fridges are. If you imagine when you've got a new fridge at home, it's not cold within 20 minutes when you first turn it on. And that's because the fridge was warm when you first turned it on, which a lot of the motorhome fridges, obviously, you know, you're not going to have them on all the time. So when you first turn them on, they're not cold. So once they get the temperature, you know, they do keep their temperature quite well. They don't have to use too much gas or anything like that, or electric. So the way you have to use it is you need to pre-cool it before you head off, before you drive off. So if I was you, if you're going to go on holiday tomorrow morning, I would advise you either light it up on gas or switch it onto the mains if you've got the hookup plugged in the night before you go away. And then by the morning, when you come out to the vehicle, you can leave all of your stuff in there overnight, and the fridge and all your stuff inside will be nice and cold. All you then need to do is switch over to 12 volt, start the engine up, and then drive to wherever you're going. So the 12 volt there will keep the fridge cold whilst you're driving, and then when you get to where you're going, switch it back to whichever one you can use. Okay, so if I just quickly run you through that as well. So when you start the engine up, you've got the alternator under the bonnet, which obviously charges up your engine battery like any other car or van does. But you've also got what's called a split charger or a split relay, which sends power from the alternator through to the leisure battery, so that all the time your engine is running and all the time you're driving, the alternator is charging up the engine and leisure batteries at the same time, so that when you get to where you're going, the leisure battery is at full power and you can then go ahead with your holiday, not worry about any voltage. The other great thing about the split relay, split charger is that it also sends a wire through here to the fridge, which is how the 12-volt function works when your engine's running and you're driving. Okay, so that's why it's so clever. So that's what that is. Okay, so the fridge, I'll leave that on just for a minute. The cooker system, you've got, again, top of the range, being the AutoTrail, they generally are. So you've got the hot plate over here. So this will only work when your hookup's plugged in as well. This is a mains functionality item. Turn it on 1 all the way through to 6, wherever you want it, and essentially that'll just heat up just like any, you know you can get the cooker systems that are just those sometimes in houses. So that's what that is. All the rest of the 3 here are obviously gas. You've got an igniter for each one of these. So if I just show you how it works, you've got a little diagram telling you which one does which. So this is the top right. Turn it around, push it in whilst you're pressing the igniter switch. And you can see there, it's straight up. Any of the orange bits that you can see, the little orange flickers, they're quite normal even in a household, but because it's a motorhome and they do sit sometimes, they do get a bit dusty, and that orange stuff is just literally getting rid of the dust. So that will go away. The grill underneath, you need to have this window open all the time your grill is on, and the grill one is this one just here, and that lights up in exactly the same way as the top. And the oven is the one on the very right. If I just show you that, so the oven lights up just like that, nice and easily. Again, little orange flickers, quite normal. Let go of that, and then you can shut the door up. It works on gas marks in here. Now obviously bear in mind that, you know, we're in a motorhome, it's not going to get as hot, you know, you're not going to get 250 degrees out of this thing like a household one could, but you know, they still get pretty hot, so just be careful with it. But that's what that is there. And the cupboard just here, that is actually the spit roaster thing that goes on there in the oven, if you want to use that. Let's see what we've got down here. So, really important, your gas isolators, your gas manifold is here. Now it's a bit dark in here, but there is a little diagram on each one of those telling you exactly which one they do. So you've got that is your boiler, fridge, external point, and that'll be the cooker at the back there. So you can isolate all of the gas from there if you want to. You only need to do that if you think there's a problem with a specific appliance. You don't need to just do that all the time. Storage under here, cutlery drawer. Okay. So thankfully the boiler drain itself is nice and easy to get to. So sometimes you have to lift all of this out to get to it and all that sort of thing, but you don't have to in here. I've shown you where it is already. In this section here, you know, as you know, it's just the sort of bedroom section, so there's not a huge amount to show you in here. You can have this whole thing open and use it as like a place to have the TV inside here if you want to, with the cupboard in the closed position. You can then see inside here, so you can have the TV set up just here and then close it off if you want to. So that's what that section is there for. I think it's quite clever, really. Loads and loads of storage in these overhead lockers. In the back is just the bathroom section. So you've got the toilet over here on the near side and the shower on the off side. Light switches, there's probably a separate button somewhere for those, wherever that might be. Oh, well, I should have found that before, shouldn't I, really? Right, well, there'll be another button for the lights in here, wherever that might be, because they're both not working. Oh, come on, where is it? Probably should have checked this out before I come in here and started doing the video, really, shouldn't I? Where is it? on the other side. Oh, there you go. Okay, so these two bottom switches here do your lights over the cupboard inside the bedroom area, and the top switch there turns on the power to the lights in here. There you go. So if I turn the top switch off there, so this top one here, all of those lights lose their power. So you can, if you want to, you can leave all those switched on like they are now and just go off this switch here. That's probably what I would do. So the sink in the back here, same as all the others. You just got hot and cold, and the same with the shower as well. So anywhere that there is a drain, you'll go straight to your waste tank, and then be able to drain it out from outside. Toilet is the only real thing I want to show you, to be honest. So to actually get the flush fluid to pump around, press the button here, and then you can see there the flushing going around the bowl. Draining it out into the cassette, pull the lever towards you, that opens up the flap and then allows it to go into the cassette, and then you have to push this back. Once you've pushed it back, you're all done. You know, you can just leave it as it is. You'll know about it when it comes to being full, because you get a little light come on here. But also, to be completely honest, you know, you'll see, you'll know about it. So that's when you have to empty that out. The window here is nice and simple. Pull this down to marry it up at the bottom, and then push on it to allow it to come back up. And the blackout blind just literally pulls up. If you want to open the window, open up all of these carefully, and then once you've done that, making sure this is loose, you can open this up to wherever you want, and then when it is open, tighten this bit on, and that'll keep it in its open position. You can then just carefully loosen it off, and that'll allow it to come back. Put these back on, and that's it. Same for all the other windows around the vehicle. I'll make sure I just turn that light off. Only other one I want to show you really is this main skylight, because sometimes they can be a little bit fragile. So push the button in on the little handle here, and then open it. Same on both sides, and then pull the handle down and push up. When you push up, the gas struts are strong enough to open it up on its own, and then putting it back down nice and carefully, so don't slam it down, nice and carefully all the way down, handle up, latches across, and that's it. Fly screen, blackout blind, just like that. Okay, so when you want to head off, make sure that you've turned your gas off in the cupboard there. Assuming you've pre-cooled your fridge, you can switch flue through to 12 volt. Start your engine up, that'll start working. Make sure that you've turned these bits off. Make sure that all of your, I'll just turn that off for now. Make sure that all of your windows are closed, and all the latches across. If you're driving at 60 miles an hour on the motorway and not all of those latches are across, it will make a draft. It's not that it might, it will. Okay, so make sure all your the skylights are 100%. That's the most important one, the skylights. If I see it all the time, right, where people driving down the road, driving on the motorway with these skylights wide open, I can promise you, right, one of those days they're going to fly off, and they're about 1,500 quid just to buy this skylight. It's not like a 50 quid job. £1,500 is how much these cost. So please shut these before you start driving. I mean, it's crazy when I see people driving with them up sometimes. Okay, so I'll put this glass down. Paperwork for the vehicle is just here in this brown box, and that's it really. I don't think there's much else to show you. If there's anything else you want to go through, or anything you think I've missed out, anything at all, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.